should start soon. I think we're recording now.
Yep.
Okay. Hello, people. This is Fanny Anzai Interviews. And today I'm very pleasured and super honored to have Angela McArdle, which is the new chair of the National Libertarian Party in the United States. Thank you very much, Angela, for coming. And please introduce yourself if I forgot anything.
Yeah, thanks for having me so much. Yeah, I'm the new chair of the National Libertarian Party in the United States, formerly, or actually I still technically am the chair of the Los Angeles County Libertarian Party, and I'm going to be passing that off to my to the person who's going to be helping and take over for me in LA County soon. That's what I've been up to.
That's very nice. So it was an overwhelming election with almost 70%, and some of the recent topics coming out of mainly in the Libertarian Convention, some changes, the future of the Libertarian Party, and your strategies, probably on the local level, more about possible new coming mandates on COVID, and the next election, which every of the last elections, at least, Libertarian Party has gained more attention and traction, and probably even like tipped, being something like a number that could have changed the last elections, for example. So first, I think we should have mentioned that it's a happy belated Independence Day, and the Libertarian Party was promoting a declare independence from the Fed. So can you explain a little bit to us what was about that, this Bitcoin movement?
Yeah, so in the United States right now, inflation is being reported at 8.6%, but everyone thinks it's a lot higher than that. It's gasoline for our cars it was costing, it was expensive by our standards. It was like $5 a gallon in major metropolitan areas. It's up to $7 a gallon now. It's crazy. Prices on everything have gone up at the grocery store, not just human food, but like cat food costs more money. Everything costs more. So what we really wanted to do is to highlight the destruction of the Federal Reserve, which controls our monetary supply here in the US and also impacts, quite frankly, a lot of the rest of the world, since the dollar is like the reserve currency. And we want to encourage people to get off the dollar and to start using Bitcoin when they can, so that they can become financially independent, because we're all worried about the United States financial situation turning into something like Venezuela if things don't get corrected soon in the future.
Yeah, and that is a reality that we have gone through, like in Brazil with the depression, the 90s, the value of the money, and they had to change the coin in the 90s. So real in Brazil, it's something that I saw that change, and we know what is that. It's like, we have thousands of cruzeiros, and now we have a real. Right. Something like that. And it's an interesting point, because the Federal Reserve, I just saw, I think it was on Friday, they were declaring that they didn't declare crisis. So right. It's an interesting point that they changed the way they calculate the inflation, which would be how the money grows, but it doesn't grow in the same pace in the hands of the people. So many people are afraid nowadays of putting money in the Bitcoin, because I think a lot of the big banks and corporations try to manipulate. So it happened at pump and dump in the Bitcoin recently, yep. And we are on the valley now, which is very good for buying, I think.
Yeah.
So, but for most of people and lay person that maybe doesn't have that money to invest, and they need to have money to use, for them it's very risky to put this money and need it in a couple months. And it's what the government is doing with devaluing the dollar, printing more dollars, and the value of the dollar. But and here for me, it's more of a parallel that I just made this morning about the people are afraid of buying the Bitcoin because the coin might devalue really fast, as we've seen. But it's the same thing as you putting the whatever thousands of dollars in the bank and coming back, and the number is the same, but the value and the power of buying of that money, it's not the same. And I think pretty much everybody can notice that the inflation is not 4, 5, 6, 8% when we cannot buy the same things we could buy last year with the same amount of money, which happens normally inflation every year, but not in this. I heard yesterday a guy talk about how the value of the bread that he buys, the brand, whatever, double price in one day. And that was what we heard in Brazil in the 90s when they had the crash of the cruzeiros. And we would be like, we need to go buy everything we need because tomorrow could be too expensive to buy, and start getting all the same crisis and hysteria of the beginning of the lockdown with toilet paper or some supplements. So we are on the edge of like the cliff of the depression, and they keep denying because they think they have that power of, no, don't worry, we're not in crisis yet. And everybody can feel, can notice people have cars and cannot drive. Then you mentioned the price of gas there, United States. You guys still paying cheaper than what we're paying here in Canada. Right. We're close to the $10 gallon because we paid a liter, and we just had a little lower this week, which everybody's running and gassing and buying gallons and gallons of gas because it was close to $2.35 a liter. Nice. So yeah, the one thing I think is also important to link with this is because of this private individual rights of like the value of the money also brings to the properties and probably the medical privacy and much more of what the government's role is to start to probably to defend those minimum rights that we have that would be inherent and not given by the government, so they can just suspend whenever they want, as they've done in the COVID, what I call COVIDiocracy, because here in Canada, we're still suffering a lot of the problems. Just yesterday, I heard was one of the worst days in the airport in Toronto, in the entire planet, as like the worst airport operation in the planet for the one day, because they have the Arrive Canada, which is an app you have to download and say you're not sick, all those forms and bureaucracies that they created during this mandate time, very authoritarian. And I think the one thing is important to point out is that the Libertarian Party is that third option, which we don't have here as voting left or right. Everybody's still for mask mandates, for vaccine passports. They will, definitely in both sides are defending all the coercions to force people in all the senses in all those authoritarian measures they took during the COVID. And here we had the PPC and Libertarian Party standing against the mandates, but they don't get even like chance to appear in the mainstream media, for example, right, and to show that they are there. So I think how does the Libertarian Party in the United States have been treated when it comes to that sense? You guys are the only option that it would be anti-mandates, that freedom, medical privacy, and how to fight this this type of mandates in the local level, what people can do from their houses.
Sure. So in the city of Los Angeles, we had initially the most aggressive mandate in the country. New York City decided to beat us a month later and make theirs even worse. But earlier in the year, late last year, I guess, they instituted a mandate that said no one could go into any business without showing proof of vaccination unless it was a church, a grocery store, or a drugstore. Those were the only three places you were allowed. It was wild, and I don't know exactly how many people there are in the city of LA. In the county of LA, there are close to 11 million people. So you could think maybe half of that in the city. And a lot of I think our vaccination rate, it was reported to be between 65 and 70%. But you could think that means 30% of the population can't go anywhere, not just to the movies, but anywhere. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go to anything for entertainment. You can't go into your office building. It was wild. But we did push back really hard at the county level through the Libertarian Party. And what we did was we filed a ballot initiative because we have that option here locally to repeal the mandates. So what I did was I got all of my LA County Libertarian people ready for action. And once City Council started announcing it, and I bet you probably experienced something similar in where you're living at, we weren't allowed to go to public meetings because everything was done online. So that was frustrating, but it also made it easier to speak out during public comment, because every city council meeting, they give you, half an hour to make public comment. So we would all line up and get ready, and we only had 1 minute, right? So we would write a script out in advance, and we would time it, and we would get on the call, 3 to 5 of us in a row every day, and we would say, my name is Angela McArdle. I chair the Libertarian Party of LA County. We oppose these mandates because we think they're a gross violation of your constitutional rights and your natural rights to bodily autonomy. Always cover both, because you never know what angle someone might be receptive to. And we would say, we are going to fight to overturn these mandates through a ballot initiative or a referendum. If you want to help, we don't care what your political background is. We can all unite on this together. Contact me at lplac.us. We always give, just like a commercial, right? Who we are, what we're doing, where to contact us. And we had thousands of people contact us. It was incredible. It was incredible. And so finally, when they enacted that mandate, we had our ballot initiative ready to go. And we filed it as quickly as we could. It took about a month to get it ready. And we started collecting signatures. And we got a ton of local media from that, because the momentum had been building. Everybody had been watching. News reporters always listen to those city council meetings. Every channel has someone dedicated, even if it's a boring day, just to try to pick up on anything. So for a week, we dominated the media, and city council eventually folded halfway through our collection process and repealed the mandate because the media attention was just too much. We basically defeated them. So that's a really good strategy you can take to defeat things like this. You've got to get the community on your side, because especially like when you're in the liberty movement, if you're in the party or just sort of an activist on your own, we're usually outsiders, and that makes it really hard. So we've got to really connect with the people around us, identify their pain points, and provide a real solution. So that's something that I've learned, and that I'm trying to also take to the national level, obviously.
Definitely. And it's important because, as you mentioned, I think it's probably an advantage to be in the United States.
Yeah.
And it's something, politically speaking, no other place that has where you would be able to do the things you can do in the United States against authoritarian, draconian measures, as it happened here in Canada or in other places. But most of places, the states, the political scenario is not possible to even stand against or do something opposite from the federal orders. And the one good thing is, I recently read the Nullification from Tom Woods, and he talks, and I was like, then I read the Michael Malice, the Anarchist Handbook Manual, and it's like I think it's like we become more libertarians with those influence, with knowing those things that are possible. And of course, I'm giving the chance to Canada because I'm Brazilian. We moved here. We wanted to come here because the strong, free North, we thought we were giving our kid a better place to live. Than imagine you stay in Brazil one day. They don't have mandates there. They couldn't hold that politically. It's the year of election. Right. They let people were poor. They could not hold lockdowns. People would be dying, and they are paying gas absurdly high. They are paying close to, I heard this I think now it's 7 reais a liter, and I think I heard people have their cars at home and nobody brings their vehicles outside anymore, which is sad because many of those people actually still paying sometimes like the finance, they finance those vehicles to help them in their tasks, whatever, daily, and they cannot use anymore for the price of gas. So I see that this problem is like, oh, why people talk about Roe v. Wade in the United States if in Canada you don't even need to worry about this? Like why we care about external policies or politicians doing or happening things in the other places is because it's a wave.
Yes.
And I think the libertarian wave, it's the wave to, like you said, it got attention and some momentum with the COVID, but it should not stop here because there's so much more that the government wants to take over and overreach. All these things that brought attention to the Libertarian Party are just like one drop of all the things that we already experienced of too big of governments. So, and of course, then I need to bring up the abortion because Roe v. Wade, more than I personally thought United States going to burn down with the January 6th and all the what people would say, some people calling already a civil war because of the Trumpism or and whatever,
right.
the wokeism that are happening. And now the Roe v. Wade was so much more emotional. People were going so much more crazy about the subject that we cannot not bring up because I think it involves a little bit of the my body, my choice, which comes with the mandates, vaccines, and all the other things. And it's interesting to see that there is a lot of dissonant people all around the place to be freedom for something, but no freedom for other things.
Yeah.
So what is I imagine that you might say that in the Libertarian Party we have people of all these sides because abortion is something that divides people even in the inside the left and inside the right. But then again comes to the idea, I think the Libertarian Party has that potential of attracting everybody because they are the Freedom Party, which is like, I have some guests, not invited guests here, sorry. Say hello.
Hello.
Is anything
Hello.
good?
I'm still hungry.
Is you hungry? Okay. Go grab a banana there and you can go back to your... I'm in the middle of something. Can you do this later? You can grab my cake. That cake there. Okay? I usually don't edit, and I probably won't, but yeah, just... I wasn't expecting this one. Sorry.
That'll be me soon. That'll be me soon.
Cakey. Oh, so mystery.
Don't forget to take the paper.
Oh, so paper. A lot of paper.
Okay. See you later.
Cake. Poopy cake.
Okay, that was Shiva showing up. So yeah, the abortion issues in the United States, I think is like it's for me when it comes to abortion, gun control, marriage. I usually say like, you don't want abortion, don't go do it. Like don't want guns, don't buy one. And don't like gay marriage or don't get married to a gay person. It's more like why you would have to stop the other people who want to do that. So my argument is always this, and I think it comes we can cover a little bit of all that when you talk about the individual rights and this idea of people want freedom only maybe for the people who do the same thing of them or that they like, and they don't want freedom for everybody, for all the neighbors, let's say. What is the Libertarian Party, the National Libertarian Party position when it comes to those so polarizing subjects?
So we have a lot of different opinions. Generally speaking, across the board, it's just individualism, right? Like absolute individualism. One of the controversial things that happened at our national convention a little over a month ago was that we removed the abortion plank from our platform. And that's basically the statement in our platform that describes our party that specified a position about abortion. So we officially took no position. And the reason that happened is because people have been fighting in the party about what our position should be for at least 30 years. At least 30 years. And so we finally just removed it. We have a lot of pro-choice people in the party. And we have a lot of pro-life people in the party who think that abortion is murder. And this is where it gets really tricky with individualism. Because a lot of people who are pro-life, and I lean more in this direction, think, okay, I don't think abortion is right. I don't think people should get it done. But I worry about what happens when we mandate it with the government, because there are all of these potential consequences. One of those is what could be happening in Texas soon, which is a bill that makes it illegal for you to leave the state to get an abortion. And it incentivizes your neighbors to spy on you and report you. So that's the sort of thing where, like, you know, in a vacuum,
It's
yeah.
interesting because that would be like when everybody was arguing about the Roe v. Wade. Oh, it could be overturned. That was like the slippery slope. Oh, they're going to start criminalizing women doing it. And everybody's like, no, they're not going to go that far. That's like, some of those slippery slope fallacies. Like, you guys playing that side, it's not going to happen. How far, would they really enforce, because it comes to those rules that we think is like, okay, but it's just like depending on people spying on others, or are they going to like test out the woman that is leaving the state,
Right.
to see if they're pregnant, and then when they come back, hey, you're not pregnant anymore.
Right. So I don't know, and I have a feeling that culturally those sort of laws wouldn't last, but I don't know that for sure. You know, that's my best guess. There have been other laws that have been proposed, and as far as I know, they haven't passed yet, but in some of the more conservative southern states, about, basically like investigating women if they get miscarriages. And like,
I saw that on Tinku. They brought one case of a lady that she was already sentenced to jail for a miscarriage, but I think they were trying to say that there was substance abuse, so they were there was something else, that it's not like, oh, you had a miscarriage, here, let's put you. Because I think, like, if the loss of a child is already a big thing, and then you're going to punish someone, like, that is very scary to think that the law could be. For me, I think all these subjects, abortion, gun control, marriage, your vaccines, how many did you take? How many guns you have? How many abortions did you have? How, who you're married to? It's more like it's not your business,
right?
The answer. And when it comes to those answers, should be, it's not the government business either. So let people be. Don't make it a government regulated thing. Here in Canada, you can have an abortion in any time and for no reason, don't need to justify much. And it's interesting because I heard some older people than me saying, why you guys care about the Roe v. Wade overturned in the United States? And the answer was like, oh, you're just talking about politics, or it's something that is, it causes that much inflammation when you bring up, and we like talking about these things, let's say. But now actually people talk so much about this, our neighbors, that there are people here in Canada talking about, we should talk about abortion. Why do we let people have abortions anytime? Because we trust people's judgments and their doctors. For me, some people argued with me like, you're pregnant and you're like a pro-choice. No, I'm pro-life and I'm pro-choice. My experience as a doctor on the streets in Brazil was like that you cannot force people to be good parents. So you should not force them to have kids. My experience with child abuse, kids being beaten, spanked, forced to do things and be in situations that they don't want, which we still see everywhere all the time. But I think we should not force people to do things.
Yeah, it's like, and the other thing is, so my gut feeling is that abortion is wrong and that it's a human being. But I can't prove that definitively. I can't point to any scientific study or long list of literature and say life definitely starts here.
Yeah.
There's just no consensus on it, and so that makes it.
No, we don't actually have that thing yet. Many people
Right.
try to say like, oh, it starts at the conception. And it's like, wow, we have so many miscarriages in the first trimesters that people didn't even know
Right.
that they're pregnant,
Right.
and they have a miscarriage and nobody cares, so no, it's not a viable life because we have a huge percentage of miscarriages.
Yeah, we just
So
don't know where the spot is at yet.
the heartbeat is not something that I think should be considered life, because we don't consider heartbeat the life when we terminate lives. That's not, we don't seem to have made a good line for defining when the life starts, but we have good lines when it finishes, and it's more about the brain waves. So I think maybe we should push that farther. And when it comes to viability, and if we consider miscarriage all the way to 20 weeks, I think it would be fine if we do abortions all the way up there. And perhaps if people say like, oh, maybe 16 is too far. Okay, let's give a gap we can try to convince those ladies to keep until
Yes.
a certain point. We can just take those kids and give them to adoption. I think we all, in the end, everybody is screaming to each other, is still want less suffering. But it's not forcing people to do just like, I'll force you to carry this baby, and I close my eyes, my doors, and turn my back, and I think the problem's solved, because it's not like that. And we know that in the communities. Um, and when it comes to public health, I guess a lot of the problems when it comes to welfare and the borders, specific immigration and sovereignty, the Libertarian Party has a little bit of more position about the borders and the immigration issues, and all the benefits that the governments might give inside the country. Like, those things seem to be like the two sides of the scale, the problem.
Yeah. So with abortion, we feel like, ultimately it's a cultural problem that needs to be solved on a cultural level. That's my opinion. But
yeah,
but immigration is a little bit more complex. So the party's official stance, the National Party, it leans more open borders, but people have different ideas of what that means, right?
Yeah.
So I think everybody should be able to come over here and work. I think you should be able to come over here and work. I'm fine with everybody coming over here to live. I'm not so sure that I feel like everybody should come over here to vote. That's a little bit different. And there are some people who just think open everything up, let everybody in for anything. And then there are people who think we need immigration reform. And it's funny that there's definitely a debate over this, but immigration reform would be, for most people in the Libertarian Party, something more like Ellis Island, old school immigration, where almost anyone gets over. You come in, you get like a basic health check to make sure you don't have the plague and you don't have, like you're not a murderer in another country, and then they just let you in. So, we're kind of in the middle on this issue. A lot of people also want to be able to open the border, but they think it should be tied to ending the welfare warfare state, and that until our government stops killing people overseas, we're not able to open the border, because people reasonably, understandably, are not happy with us and do wish us harm and want to come over here and get revenge. And obviously the drug crisis at our southern border is pretty gnarly. People are trafficking drugs across the border, and then it involves, moving human beings as well, human smuggling. It's just really, it's a real mess, but something's got to be done.
Yeah, I think the Libertarian Party might have like the first solution would be take all the troops outside the United States to start, so we don't create those war zones where people need to sometimes, just like I said, no choice whatsoever, they need to go to another place. And it's like, why not go to United States, which is the best place? I think United States in the end is attractive because it's, like I said, I feel like now that being in Canada, we don't have any freedom. We cannot even choose to leave Canada if you don't take the vaccines. They will
Ugh.
not let you get into the plane. So you're locked here. It feels a little bit of those communist countries where the guns are
Yeah.
turned back inside and the people cannot leave the place. So it's exactly how we feel here, trapped. And I think if it doesn't get better, I'll probably in a couple of years end up in some state in the United States. Because in the United States, you can move to another state, you can vote with your feet,
Yes.
you can, and you can ultimately go to a place where it's more likely the place where you can be happier. So I think that is why United States is that place, on top of the mountain still
Right.
for a lot of people. It's like because we think like, oh, if you are immigrants, sure, you go choose whatever. But why refugees are actually not stopping in the next place where they get refugee? They end up going all the way to the United States. And I was like, no, I think it's just because it's attractive. Of course, I think we cannot deny the terrorism, which is scary for an idea of open borders. I personally feel like I'm definitely for immigration, legal immigration, of course, because we know how harmful it's illegal immigration for the individuals itself. I've met people here that were illegal and their life was not fun to be illegal in a place, to be hiding, to maybe need something and not be able to ask for help. It's really a horrible situation. I don't think anybody should be like thousands of people doing that. It's not reasonable. But I think the system has failed in that sense, in the politicians mainly, because they talk things that cause people to come and believe they are going to get things. So I think definitely the borders have to do with the welfare. We need to stop giving benefits, or benefits are connected to if you contribute. First you have duties and then you have rights.
Right.
It would be like this in any other place. And if you just give stuff of and open borders, I think it would be horrible for the people that are already there. We suffer this here in Canada more likely. Here in BC, there is a real market bubble that is completely artificial. Anything is like $500,000. Any crappy house in the corner, you like it. So no people are. The Canadians itself, the new generation feels pushed away. The older generation feels like they are not going to be able to have their kids staying in the same area because of the prices. And of course, then it becomes a little bit of the cultural, social problem, which it becomes like some people claiming racism or xenophobia, when there is a real problem and it's caused artificially by the government trying to control things. And mainly here in this case, they try to control the price of the real estate bubble. It's totally government's fault because they like, yeah, you guys can inflate and nobody can pay anymore. So now it's Vancouver, BC area is all populated by rich, young people that are sent by their rich parents in their countries here, and the Canadians itself cannot live in the area anymore. So they feel pushed out, and there is a big, some people you hear clearly like some type of xenophobia and hatred by like the people that left the Canada, the country more even to have a type of hatred for the country now.
Right. It's like government policies end up creating racial tension and class warfare where otherwise it just wouldn't exist. It's really unfortunate.
And the always discussion, like if public or private service, and I think it's ridiculous that people still want to give more power to government when the public service is so mediocre in comparison of anything we could have in the private. I think people, at least in Brazil, which we pass through this generation of this new socialist wave there, and have noticed by now that is not the way to go. But we also happen to have an election coming in Brazil, and there is no third option. You only have the left and right. So people vote for like the smallest evil, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they don't give even a chance for whatever libertarian third party would exist. I thought that was interesting because I saw a post on yesterday, uh, Instagram from like a, maybe it was Ayn Rand Institute talk about capitalism succeed, and I was like, I can't agree because I don't think we are in a free market capitalism, and I think maybe
Right.
that is one of the main problems with what we have today with this corporatism, with this fake this they try to say capitalism because they want people to hate capitalism, I guess. So what is that now?
Actually, I was trying it down, and then I touched the ketchup.
That's okay. Just
But
clean
my
yourself.
shoe?
It's fine. You take it off. I'll clean later. Okay. Sorry. So yeah, I think the Libertarian Party going with the Bitcoin and talking about this freedom from the Fed money, from the fiat currency, it's a part of that. It's
Yes.
very capitalist. Have like an idea what and how could we move? Is that bombing ourselves as libertarian to say like we're not going to pledge for any group, we're not going to give any benefits to any corporations? Is that like lose completely and almost like to be anti-status quo, like because to be all not establishment? And I saw a post earlier today, someone you responding to like we're not a GOP elite because we're not part of this mainstream media corporations or government. We are actually trying to break that down.
Yes. Yes. I think that decentralization is really important. And when it comes to media, most mainstream media, like what we call legacy media, is dying. CNN viewership is at an all-time low. Fox News is low too. It's not just news that leans to the left. A lot more people watch Joe Rogan. A lot more people watch Tim Pool. Like that's really where viewership for people who are like under 50 years of age, that's where viewership is going. It's going into alternative media. And so we have to use our best judgment, right? Like we have to not completely cut off our relationship with mainstream media, but we have to sort of watch the trends and the decline and be at the front cutting edge of adopting new media trends. And that's what we're trying to do.
That's pretty good. Yeah, you got a lot of views, a lot of eyeballs on you on Tim Pool. I saw the interview, and I like because the Tim Pool came from the left and became much more centrist. Probably
Yes.
not libertarian would say yet. With some we still need some government to control something here, but it's definitely that move, that at least first step we need to get out of that inertia of like just having those two options, left and right,
Yes.
and to be able to criticize both sides the way that we might have here. I have the nuance, bro, because I thought it was kind of like relatable. We are not Democrats or Republicans. We might and we do have a lot of room for the Democrats and Republicans that don't like something on the left or the right, because they like, yeah, I like those things, but I don't want to force other people my way, which I think in the end most of people might think answer that if they are honest personally. They don't want anybody to tell them what to do. We don't want any
Right.
neighbors to tell us what to do, or sneaking around or calling the police because you have kids playing in, my gosh, lockdowns. It has happened here.
Yep.
You mentioned the people calling the police for people getting abortion in other states, but here in Canada, the government asked people to, and there were people calling the police because, oh, there is a play date. There is like 3 kids from different families. They came drop the kids. Nobody's wearing masks, something like that. And the police come to people's house to, and we don't want the police state. That was another one of your posts this morning on Twitter. I saw it's something that we have one side on the left, or let's say the extreme left, talking about defunding the police. And I think for not the right, because many people, let's say, I've seen the other day someone on Fox News saying like, my gosh, there was a crime just on my corner. I'll have to move out of the United States. And it's like, that's how far these people are out of like, also to see some like one crime or some act of violence on their corner. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to go out.
Right.
You know, I cannot even leave this area anymore. It's too violent. And but on the media, you hear some people, yeah, defund the police, or even the politicians, some politicians that would support those things.
Right.
And what they would do the first time they have any risk or anything, you call the police. So I think maybe in reality, there are many places where they need more police, and is where there is this narrative where they fund the police. At the same time that, we do have like probably need a reform and talk about how the unions might be one of the main problems of the police being corrupt or not punishing, whoever needs to be punished properly inside their corporation.
Yes. Police unions are a huge problem. In the county of Los Angeles, we have. Okay, so people on the far left all the time have all kinds of stories about racism and it gets over the top, right? Over the top. They see racism and microaggressions and everything. But we actually have a real problem with the Los Angeles sheriffs. They have racist gangs in the sheriff's department. And it's been all over mainstream news. There are LA Times articles about it people can look up. And a lot of it goes back to protecting the unions. And why doesn't it get cleaned up? Year after year, you see Black and Latino officers who are just coming up through the ranks get dumped in the worst parts of LA County. They will get called in when there's gun violence, and then no one will go to back them up. And it's because the other officers in opposite racial gangs, it's usually Caucasian and Asian people in the sheriff's departments are on one side, and Black and Latino officers are on another side. And they just leave these poor guys to get eaten alive in gang territory. And there's so many complexities, right? Like the drug war that should be ended. There's a lot to take apart, but there's incredible violence in the LA County Sheriff's Department, and we never see real reform. And it's because there's so much money that changes hands between our government and these government-sponsored unions. It's just a really gross problem.
The same idea with the drug problems and the prohibitions, like it doesn't seem to be a problem that they want to fix, because we know that the prohibition itself is what caused most of the problems. They're artificially created by making it illegal. If the legalization at least would reduce, I'm not even saying simple things as police not need to go after people that are just using drugs, but the heavy black market and crime that happens behind the scenes, which are definitely caused by the prohibition itself.
Absolutely. I saw an ad for the police force a few weeks ago, and it said crime will never stop, and it showed an image of a police officer doing a drug bust, and it really grossed me out, because I thought, wow, you're using this crisis to employ more people and perpetuate. This is not like people will always be hungry, so we'll always need to make food. It's like they've manufactured a reason to lock someone up, and now they're like, this is a great job opportunity. Yeah. Really perverse incentive.
It's terrible. So I still have a bunch of things, but I will cut shorter so we can finish in time for you. So here, one thing that I think is a little bit controversial inside the Libertarian Party itself is the free speech and some changes that you guys made about offense. Yeah. So, and how that works, I think that brings up a little bit of the woke.
It does.
Movement, which is a little bit of a language dictatorship, something, but disguised as trying to stop any harmful or speeches, violence, or something like this. And I saw you talking about this morning on the Twitter, because I saw you also mentioning that we are very open to everybody from left and right, as soon as it's libertarian. As soon
Yes.
as I don't want to force anything upon other people or coerce other people to do. And when it comes to the, I guess, for things that made the woke popular, was trying to dictate language,
Yes.
pronouns, and other things. So can you talk a little bit about that, how it's totally fine or not, and
Yeah.
how you woke, how is being, like, if there is like a big woke infiltration in the Libertarian Party, because
Right.
it happened in the academics and many other things, politics and everything. Yeah.
So there was a woke infiltration into the Libertarian Party that's crept up rather aggressively over the last 10 years at least. And so let's talk about free speech. Free speech is really important for a lot of obvious reasons. Free speech is how we work out our disagreements, and that means internally within the party as well. If you're not free to throw out your ideas, good or bad, how are we going to sort things out? How are we going to improve? How are we going to figure out what a bad idea is and going to, graciously or maybe mercilessly correct it? You don't know any of that until you hear someone express their views. And I think that free speech is also, it's very tied to free thought. And when you start policing someone's speech, the implications are that you are policing wrongthink. And that's what we started to encounter in the Libertarian Party. And there was a particular phrase in our platform, was we condemn bigotry as irrational and repugnant. So, obviously we don't want to be surrounded by people who are racist and like zealously homophobic. If people have, religious views about homosexuality, but they're not looking to legislate it and they're not being jerks about it, like over the top, that's fine. Everybody has a different idea of something, as long as you're not trying to weaponize it and lord it over us. But it got to the point with bigotry where anybody who disagreed with anything was labeled a bigot. And if you had a Facebook friend who had said something rude and someone saw it, well, you're a bigot for keeping that person around. I would get messages all the time from other woke libertarians that I was friends with or on social media with. Oh, I can't believe, did you see what so-and-so said? You better delete them. And it's just out of control. And I'm like, no, there's like 4,000 people on there. No, I didn't. No, I don't. And I don't care, if it's incredibly egregious, but I don't have time in my day to.
Yeah.
So we did, with the Mises Caucus and the help of some other people who'd been in the party for longer and they could see the direction that we were headed in, we did change that language. And we replaced it with something that said, basically, we affirm the rights of all individuals, regardless of their race, gender, sexual orientation, and so on and so forth. So we did make it clear that we definitely care about individual rights, and that basically that we believe all human beings have, intrinsic value. When you come into this world, we all come into it equally. You're born, naked and screaming with nothing, but we value your life. But policing speech is just not something that I think we should be doing.
Am I back? Sometimes I push the button.
You are. And
Okay.
and who decides who is a bigot? This is the big. Everybody was a bigot, Who's a bigot?
We had this big discussion in Brazil decades ago, and they actually ruled that there are terms you're not supposed to use, because it's interesting. We have completely different idea of the black or N world. If you can, the N word, if you can say or not. Some people can say, some not. I think the discussion in the United States came a lot around this, and people talking about hate crime.
Right.
And in Brazil, they changed, they made laws to impede people from calling people maybe faggot or N-word, or make associations of black people and monkeys, because some black people in Brazil would take that as racism at some
Right.
point. So they start putting people in jail in Brazil because of this, which was really sad. It still happens, and for me, it's weaponized something judicially that they don't need, because now you can have an argument in the traffic, people fight for
Right.
whatever reasons, and then the person, but they called me gay. It's like, what? Then that would give you more, the other person more, like some time in jail because of that, or because, oh, he called me a monkey. I don't know, whatever.
It's so crazy.
And it's like, okay, offense. I think for me, it's proportionality, and justice should be into that. So it's like, I don't know, offense should be fine, legal, and it's not a crime. You feel offended, or offend them back. It's nothing like I can act violently towards you or put you in jail because you said something I don't like.
Right.
Or when it comes to religious freedoms or religious offenses, you cannot draw Muhammad or do this, because imagine you calling violence towards you because it's totally justified to kill someone if they offend your God.
So
I think
crazy.
this is like a change of culture that happened in the last couple years. We were like not attentive how harmful those
Yes.
people talking about, oh yeah, speech is harmful, speech is violence, and that justifies you to go violent on them, try to put them in jail, stop them from being free, like. So it was a big attack on free speech. We're trying to conquer that thing back, but I guess freedom, free speech, and it's not something that we conquer and live our lives happily forever.
Right.
It's something that you have to defend daily. And it's quite crazy, because for me in Brazil, I understand that the intention of the what is that, the unwanted consequence of good intentions, that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons. Stuff, I love them. And so yeah, the good intention on that was that they thought they would stop racism. That was the idea in Brazil. They said like, don't call anybody N-word or monkey or give them a banana.
Right. Right.
Something. uh, the intention was to end racism, but the one thing that happened is just that the racists, the real racists, because
Right.
there are people that might yell those things just because they're mad, they are fighting, they're in the middle of a discussion, argument, and they use horrible words. But the real racists is still racist. They are just
Right.
hidden now. And I
Right.
I cannot identify them anymore. So I
Right.
love the free speech. I would love the racists to be able to be racist, the homophobic to be homophobic. And like you said, and then we could segregate by socially, by
Right.
knowing who are
And
the good people or not.
it also, like, there's so many things that happen. So it stifles humor because people make racist jokes and they're
All the
just
time.
joking. And it's
Yeah.
not a big deal. People joke about Asian drivers. They make fun of me because I'm
Oh, I live in
blonde.
an Asian area.
Right.
It's not a joke. It's
There
not
you
a
go.
joke. It's real.
So, well, so like different cultural issues, and then you come
And
to
I
the
say I
United
can make that
States.
joke because I'm Asian too. So
There you go. Oh no, it's internalized racism.
oh yeah, that's what they say.
People will make jokes about me being blonde or because I'm a woman. I can't like freak out and scream. Like, you just have to laugh unless it's really mean spirited. Just
No,
laugh it
and there
off.
are the mean-spirited people. They are, because when they don't have their faces, it's just
Yeah.
a character, a user on YouTube or whatever platform. They do. I've had videos talking about men issues, and people said, "You're just a woman. Go back to the kitchen." Something like that. You don't have opinions. You don't have an opinion.
Right. Yeah, people say things, but I'd rather know because then I know, I
And it's
know
like,
what people are
that's
thinking.
fine, and even those things, I think it's like people should be allowed to say those things. I
Yeah.
was just laughing, keep going. It's like, sure, not my friend, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I'd prefer to know rather than have them just, harboring their resentment. People say all kinds of other things too. Like, there's a couple of implications here. So, like, one is we're making our culture, our society incredibly like mentally fragile and delicate, which I don't think is good, because you can go out into the real world after you graduate college and you can get bullied in all kinds of other ways. And there's no hate speech laws to protect you from a boss who's just like a massive jerk, or a coworker who's tyrannical and tormenting you. And then the other implication is that if there's any problem at all, even a social problem, we have to seek a government solution. It just completely makes you like
It's handicapping people of a social interaction, and I think more than that. I like to point out the Cultural War. It's a book from Alexander Adams, and he talks about this cultural change of like just the attack on free speech with the Mohammed drawing, with all the terrorists, and say like don't poke them because you're giving them the chance to punch you in the face or whatever, to cut your head off. All that, in fact, changes much more people internally, and most of us more than us that we still break out and like, fuck, you're not going to tell me what I can say or not. But most of people are actually in the position of, yes, I'm not going to say anything. I'm afraid of saying things. Most of people right now, they are afraid of bringing up their opinion in social media because they can lose their job, in the social level, friends and family, because they can lose friends and families because of they have the wrong opinion. And that this notion, this sense that is kind of like a general, it's more harmful than anything, I think. The idea of like when the COVID measures came, what I think it was the worst scar that we are suffering, at least in this area where I live in BC, is because people were so afraid that they do wear masks inside their cars alone with the windows open, with the windows rolled up. Like, so AC, mask, and they are alone. And I was like, what's going on? Why people still doing it? It's because it really brainwashed them.
Yeah.
And that, the brainwash against the free speech, like you're not allowed to say your opinion and you're going to be hit on the head. You say something wrong, you're going to hit on the head. That, it's making people so fearful, and they cannot open up and they cannot say anything. They don't have anything to say more anymore.
Yeah, we went from a culture of free speech to a culture of fragility, and ultimately a culture of fear.
Yeah,
which is not a good way to live your life.
Yeah, and I think this is like it comes like, it's interesting because then everybody thinks politics is the way, or policies, to create new policies is the way to fix whatever new trending. And now we have these drag shows, woke thing, public teachers in schools talking about grooming kids, proudly grooming kids, which is very scary. For me, the entire point is like, why these people that most of the time don't even have kids are so worried about my kid's gender, if I personally am not. I don't care what my daughter is going to be when she grows up. I want her to be happy, whatever she decides to be. Of course, I would not like her. I don't talk about sex with her, so I don't want any other people to do either. So, of course, there is like, I'm kind of like more conservative when it comes to these policies, because I think the parents are the responsible and the judges to decide how they're going to grow their kids, raise their kids, even if like sometimes religious indoctrination I'm very against, but we can't do anything. What I can hope is that those kids in the future will be able to break out of their bubbles. But I don't think government should be the one to come break out your door and like, hey, you send your kid to this school or teach them this or that. So I think there is the idea of now comes a big wave against the woke, comes this big wave of neoconservatives that's like, no, you need to put creationism in schools and then do masses in schools and bring religion back. It's like, that's not the way, because those two are indoctrination and grooming and they're bad. Like they are echo chambers of those things. They don't teach kids to think.
And there will eventually be
how to think properly.
There will be backlash against that as well. If we constantly go back and forth from progressivism to like fundamental Christianity, it's no one wins. Everybody loses. You gotta let parents decide how they're gonna raise their kids. It's just, but yeah, the drag stuff is really creepy. That is something that normally happens in a nightclub or strip club where people are at least 18 and over. And that's fine. People can do whatever. I don't hate drag. I'm just not, I'm not down with it for 6-year-olds. I feel like that's pretty tame.
I think kids have so much more to learn before they need to be presented to those things. It's just a matter of like what you share, what time, and there is a time. I don't think of course, the kids are curious about anything you bring. Everything is new to them, and they might think it's fun to do, if you bring some type of fun activity and you giving them attention, you tell them, do it, you know, like that's for me the part of the grooming, which is kind of scary. I've seen some videos like this, and of course, like you said, it should not be. It's part of the socialist agenda to try to tell your parents to do
Hello,
drag
kitty.
or church,
Hello, kitty.
where to bring them. What happened to your show?
It's not off.
Not off yet. So
I saw the man picking up the tree, and they're bringing, and the cricket bringing it.
I know
back.
it's pretty noisy here. They are
No,
doing
they're-
cutting the tree.
No, Mama, they're not cutting. They're
Sorry.
Mama.
Yes.
The trick down. They put the tree wall down, and then it moves by itself inside, and then I
Let
cut
me just tell you,
everything.
I have some show. I have time here. Okay. And
Yes.
when I finish.
Yes, Mom.
Okay. Okay. Here. Bye. Sorry. So yeah. I usually don't have her. It's just because she's off daycare now in the transition for kindergarten. So I had to control, and I wasn't expecting so many interruptions. Sorry. So what is now? Just I think this might be the end. I would have some other questions, but I'll finish here. And I think after this July 4th, and many people talking about the Constitution, I saw some interesting conversations about that, like having people just interviewed on the streets, and people have different, very divided opinions about the Constitution in the United States. What is the Libertarian Party's view about the Constitution, and if we need some change, and how to amend it?
So libertarians again have different views on it, but generally you're going to come across two views, right? One is the minimum government perspective, which is they think we need to go back to a constitutional government, and that would be perfect, or at least good enough. The other view that I tend to lean more towards is anarchism, and that means either they didn't agree to the Constitution, it's like a one-sided contract, or in my perspective, really great document, really good try, but it obviously didn't work out because we have so many extra constitutional agencies and powers in the country, is sort of a noble but failed experiment. But I think generally we all agree that if we were to go back to constitutional governance, we would be in a much better place than we are right now. And so I'd settle for that, no problem. If we could get back to constitutional governance, I'd be so happy. You wouldn't hear any complaints from me.
Would that be something that a libertarian leader coming as president would do something like reduce the government or dissolve the government completely? And depending, because I have talked to Adam Kokesh, and he was that candidate that would be like, yeah, I'll come in and like I'll give you the power away, and like I throw it in the garbage. Is that what would be? Would that be too scary for people to elect someone libertarian? So
I mean, probably at this point, I would love to get there eventually, but I think realistically, a libertarian president would work to undo as many extra constitutional agencies as possible. So they would try to dismantle as much as they could of things like the NSA, National Surveillance or Spying Agency, as we call it, the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms bureaus, that things like that shouldn't exist. And I imagine that they'd probably start there and just get as much done, whittle their way down. But it's a tall order, right? A lot of it takes legislative processing. We obviously, the president does have a lot more war power than they have legislative authority. So I could see them trying to bring troops home immediately and trying to untangle some of those very entangling alliances we have. But I think that's where they'd start.
That's very good. So because I usually think it's like, we will go probably through the natural process of having a more minarchist government with a smaller government to really reach a no federal government. But even the idea of reducing the government should not be scary for the local level or for the state level. Should be something that every state should support.
People want to defund the police, so why would you be afraid of defunding part of the federal government?
Yeah. It would be like you're gonna get government gets less of your money.
Right.
You have less people to pay. It's definitely a good deal. Or I don't think we have employed almost everybody in the population to really scare the population that they're gonna all lose their jobs yet. Huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for having me. Please let us know here how anybody that's more curious about more libertarianism and the National Libertarian Party in the United States, how to join and help and support, maybe get together and know how to do more of actions and help them.
So you can join and donate and find out more at lp.org. That's our website, and our Twitter account is at @LPNational, so you can see some of our views there. And we do have a lot of candidates running. I'm trying to get them all listed at lp.org. So if you're interested in seeing individual candidates and their policies, that's a place to find that too.
Yeah, that is actually one thing I forgot that would be one of the last questions here, and I kind of like skipped that. It's the next election. If it happened to be like 2016, which is like wow, the Libertarian got a big chunk of votes, and who is the most potential candidate for the Libertarian Party right now?
So there are three people, and they haven't officially announced. One of them has certainly been talking about it a lot, but the three people that I think are likely going to run are going to be Dave Smith.
Yeah, that's what I heard from himself.
The comedian,
yeah,
right?
That is the one that's talking about.
Right. He's got a lot of buzz. Justin Amash, the former congressman, he's also got a lot of support. And Spike Cohen, who was our vice presidential nominee in the last in the 2020 election. So those are the three heavy hitters, top contenders for the race.
Okay, so they are going to be running inside the Libertarian Party, and then depends on the election inside the Libertarian Party, I imagine.
Yeah, we have a closed primary where we nominate at a convention, and then whoever gets the most votes at our convention is the
Justin already has like the support because he's already in and involved for a very long time. But Dave Smith has like a big follower, in his popular on YouTube too. So
he's got a populist wave, and he's got a lot of good connections with alternative media. So it'll be interesting to see how
it's very well representative of the libertarian principles, I would say.
Yes, he's a good communicator.
Justin might be on the edge of some control, let's say.
Yeah.
He's more moderate. He wants some control, which I feel like it doesn't, I don't know, maybe just a little bit like JoJo when she was not that within the principles of the libertarians completely. And I think is that something that would probably change the support and even like the general support, like from other people's outside of libertarian, to see the Libertarian Party be represented by someone that really holds those libertarian principles.
Yeah, I think that Joe Jorgensen did a much better job of representing our principles than Gary Johnson did.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I think we want to even take it to the next level and make it, like bolder.
No race, no
separate
benefits to any corporations or any.
Yeah, separate ourselves from the progressive and like woke narrative a little bit better. So I think it's interesting how the Overton window in the Libertarian Party has shifted, right? Because both Justin Amash and Dave Smith are fairly pro-life, and I don't believe that either of them are absolute open borders. They're pretty close. They want to see immigration reform, definitely, but it's interesting. Two of the biggest heavy hitters lean in that direction on both of those major issues. So 2024 will be interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting because I think it has a lot, like maybe Dave could be the guy that, as he points out in many of his videos, he has a lot of his personal views, but he can separate that of politics.
Yes.
So I hope he could be that representative for the libertarian, even if he's like, no, I'm pro-life, but leave this to the individual level. Maybe it's not something to be regulated by the government, as many other subjects, for sure.
And I think we'll see over the next couple of years, right? Like how the government handles it.
Yeah. Let they do it in the local level. They are doing fine. So we'll keep doing like this. Usually I'm very pro secularism in the way to defend even to try to show religious people that secularism is the answer to, not for their religious freedom only, but freedom from other religions.
Yeah.
And to be able to preach, praise, do whatever you want or not at all. And I think the next level, which the Libertarian Party is bringing, is the financial secularism of the government, the separation of the banks and state, because we do try to separate church and state. They still use, lots of politicians still use God for elections, for sure, but that idea of separate those other things that drive most of people, they are not voting for the politicians or for policies. They are voting because the guy is from my church, or it's my color, or my whatever, the identitarian policies. But yes, let me finish here. Thank you very much. People, go follow, support Libertarian Party and Angela McArdle. You rocking on all your interviews. I've seen like the Libertarian Convention, Reno, with Nick. It was like amazing. I think you like taking the high ground maneuver, which Scott Adams says sometimes, because he's like ask them what they mean by, and it's really showing that we, or libertarians, we're not going to go to anybody's house, tell them what they have to, which religions they follow, or which school they have to send their kids, and how they have to raise their children. It's a lot more on giving people's not just freedom. Of course, they already have their responsibility. We want people to have the freedom to make their choice, because that's the only way to be able to be happy. The individual only can be happy if he can be free to make his own choices. And I think that's what we come to bring here, the message of the Libertarian Party. Thank you so much for having us in your place. And I'll see you guys all next time. I'll stop recording here so we can chat a little bit more.